It's a vacuum cleaner bait, and that's kind of, I touched on it at the beginning of using these baits as tools, and they're vacuum cleaner baits. They're not going to be baits that you're going to start, drop the trolling motor, and I'm going to go find them with the shaky head. Well, you can if the lake's about as big as this room, but if you're fishing a big lake like Lake Champlain or Winnipesaukee or somewhere, it's a big lake, you can't cover any water with a shaky head or a drop shot. So you have to realize that both of these baits are what I call vacuum cleaner baits. You use other baits to find them, or you use other baits to get you in the right areas, and then you use that shaky head to go in there and then working it slowly and catch them out of it. And it's like I said before, it's not a bait that you're going to necessarily win tournaments on as much as it is a bait that you're going to catch fish on. There are definitely tournaments, especially up here, that get won on drop shot, so you can prove that wrong, but it's a bait that just catches fish. The post spawn, kind of throughout the country, is notoriously tough time to catch fish, notoriously, and so that shaky head can be really, really good in those post spawn tournaments, like in this part of the country, I guess it would be like early to mid June. Down in my part of the country, it's late April, early May. Tournaments can get real tough, and then you pick up that shaky head, and all of a sudden you're catching 40 fish, and you were thinking that you were fishing the Dead Sea, but you just were throwing a bait that's a little too aggressive for them. And then the shaky head can definitely save your day. A couple years ago, we were fishing Lake Murray in one of the Elite Series events. I kind of had them figured out on these points. Randy's not here. Yeah, Randy's not here. So I was on these points, and I was catching them on a swim bait, a topwater bait, a fluke, and a drop shot. And I was using the drop shot as my vacuum cleaner. And so I had these points going. The first day of the tournament, I had 16 pounds and something. It was up in the top 5 or top 10. Good day. The second day, I don't know what changed. Something changed. They wouldn't touch the swim bait. They wouldn't hit the fluke. And I couldn't get one on top water. I caught 2 or 3 on a drop shot just because I kind of had them located, and I didn't know what was going on. I mean, I was running around the lake, kind of scramble mode, and I only had 3 fish, and I knew that I needed at least 2 more keepers because I kind of had an idea where the cut weight was going to be for the top 50. I said, God, if I can just make it till tomorrow, then I can make some adjustments and maybe have a good tournament. But if you don't make the next day, you can't play the game. So I said, man, I need 2 more fish. Sure enough, I had the shaky head tied on. I ran to the back of this one creek, and I think it was a second or third cast I made. I caught a keeper. It was actually about a 2 1/4 pounder. Caught that fish, put it in the live well. I said, okay, so that was quick. And so I fished around that bridge a little bit more, caught some small ones, went to another riprap bridge, and ended up catching another 2 pounder, and I actually caught 2 more fish and called one of the other ones I had, and so I ended up having like 11 or 12 pounds or something that day, and salvaged a decent day, and it was due to the shaky head. I didn't count on that to catch him, and then the next day I went out and had 16 pounds and something. I caught a couple good ones on the fluke in the morning, and then I caught everything else on a jig on docks way up the river. So I caught him up there doing that. But I didn't even throw the shaky head the next day. I used it to get me to where I needed to go, and you can do the same thing, and just using that bait to get you where you need to go. Maybe filling out a limit, or just filling out a limit early so that you can have the confidence to go do something else the rest of the day. So just make sure you understand you can use it to save your day. So drop shot fishing, I would say that the biggest thing about drop shot fishing is it's definitely not as good around the grass. For some reason, when that bait's away, the hook is away from the weight, I don't have as much success in grass. You can fish it around the grass, but it's just not as good for me. Shaky head actually can be pretty decent if you drop down in the weight. Shaky head can be pretty decent around sparse grass, especially that Warlock jig head. It's got more of a tapered head, and it doesn't get hung up in the grass like a round ball head. But the drop shot fishing, so most of you people are familiar with it. It's great on offshore cover, drops, suspended fish, and humps. And I would say, again, once you find the fish, it's as good as anything in catching them. In that offshore cover, the drops, all that stuff is fairly self-explanatory except for the suspended fish. And that gets a lot of questions. And when you're finding those suspended fish, you're going to have to find them on your depth finder. I mean, you can't just see them. You have to find them with your depth finder. And basically, the best way to describe it, I'll give you an example of when I was up Lake Onata a few years back, and I think I finished in the top 15 or so. I think I finished 13th actually, and I caught almost every one of my fish suspended out offshore, and almost every one of them was on a drop shot. And what I would do was that they were semi-schooling in this area, but once I figured out what was going on, I took that technique and I ran with it. And what was going on is that like fish would come up schooling, and you could throw anything you wanted to out there, and you could not buy one. And it didn't make any sense to me. They're actually, the fish are all excited, and they're blasting bait, and you could throw, top water, swim baits, jerk baits, rattle baits, anything you want to throw out there, and you couldn't get one. But if you went right over there to where the fish, so I quit casting on them. And what I started doing was that I'd take the boat and went right over to where the fish started schooling. I'd take the boat and would go right over to them, and then I'd slow down with the trolling motor and I'd watch. And then if you watched, eventually, I was fishing about 20, 25 feet of water, and eventually in like that 12 to 14 foot range, you'd see a couple arcs. And those fish come up and blast, and then they go back down and just kind of hang out. And if you could find where those fish were, you could drop a drop shot right down, and you had to hold it in that depth range. You could watch the weight go down on your depth finder to where that 12 to 14 foot range was, and you would just hold it and not move it. You just hold it, and then all of a sudden it was like you're worm fishing for bluegill or something. You're just holding it, and then all of a sudden you'd feel it. You just feel them get it, and then you'd set the hook. I mean, I was catching 20 fish a day doing that.
And the information Bass University provides isn't your basic run-of-the-mill fishing video. This is specific information from A to Z to help you learn, get to the water, and become a better angler quickly.